Hi everyone, I'm Abigail. This is James, and welcome to another Two Kids interview.
We are joined by best-selling authors Stephen J. and Clifford R. Simmons.
The Simmons have co-written other children's books about animals, including Where Do Big Creatures Sleep at Night? Where Do Creatures Sleep at Night? Both published by Penguin Random House.
Yes, Abigail, let me just jump in there and thank you for that very nice introduction. The publisher is actually Charles Bridge, but you're right. The distributor is Penguin Random House. So they work together to distribute and sell the book. But I wouldn't want to get Charles Bridge not getting the credit here for the publication.
Yeah, gotta give everybody credit.
Yeah, that's it.
That's right.
And credit you two for doing these interviews. Thank you for having us on.
There it is.
There it is. Guess what?
Hey, we've got our copy. We've got ours too.
Wow.
Where do ocean creatures sleep at night?
Wow.
Yeah, where do they?
Okay. Stephen J. Simmons also wrote A Tale of Two Witches, which teaches us the very important lesson about how good deeds always triumph over evil ones.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
This is a rhyming book with lots of fun facts about ocean creatures and how and where they sleep.
It has been praised by the Manhattan Book Review for its beautiful illustrations, the fun facts about its sea creatures, and for the use of marine biology.
How did you become inspired to write a tale about marine biology using prose and poetry? Those things don't seem too much alike.
Well, thank you. That's a great question. So I think, well, first of all, let me say that this is the third in a series of 3 books. And if you want to know all 3 books, the first one, very quickly, the first one happened because I was looking at animals around our house and I saw rabbits and squirrels and birds and butterflies and bees. And I thought children see those during the day, but wouldn't it be interesting to write a book about what happens to them at night when the children go to sleep? So that was the first book, Where Do Creatures Sleep at Night? That led to the second book that Cliff and I co-authored called Where Do Big Creatures Sleep at Night? And it was the same question about how do big creatures like lions or elephants or giraffes sleep at night? And then we went on to ocean creatures. And I think Cliff and I both love the ocean. We snorkeled together at the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, in the Caribbean, in Florida, all over. We love ocean creatures. And the idea of doing a book on that subject also seemed like a very interesting one as a children's book. I will say that you can see all of these books on our website, stevesimmonsbooks.com or simmonsbooks.com, and that's spelled Simmons, simmonsbooks.com. And we also have an Instagram account called Simmons Stories. So Simmons Stories. So you can read all about all 3 books and 5 or 6 others that have been written, that I have written in those places. So that's kind of how we came up with the idea to write the book.
I actually searched up this book and then it actually brought me to your website.
Oh, that's wonderful. Good. That's good to see. Good to hear. Thank you, Abigail.
Writing a book is a big commitment. So when you get an idea, how do you become sure that this is a story you want to tell?
Cliff, do you want to take that one?
Sure thing. It is a big commitment. You're right. And it takes many months of work and collaborating together. But I think in this case, I credit my dad for really proving out how special this idea is. After he authored the first book in the series, which is Where Do Creatures Sleep at Night, and after seeing that and actually collaborating with him on on helping to edit and that first book, I think we both felt excited about the idea, and felt like the first one was so inspiring to so many kids that read it, and was successful and a great process. And so I think that's how we knew it was an idea that we wanted to continue pursuing in the next two books, in terms of where do big creatures sleep at night, and then for this one, of course, where do ocean creatures sleep at night. So yeah, it's been a great experience, and really glad that we did it.
And as you say, Abigail, it's a kind of a rhyming book, and Cliff and I really worked hard on that. It was very difficult. This series of books are the first of the books I've written that actually rhymed, and it's very difficult to try to get the rhymes to work with what you're talking about and with the pictures. I will say Ruth Harper, who was the illustrator, I mean, that's such spectacular talent, and the pictures, as you can see, exactly, are so beautiful. That's right, and you can see she does. Here are pictures of ocean creatures in all of their different environments. So here's like an octopus, or that's right, you're holding up
Otters.
The otter.
Big otters. Or here's seahorses, and Ruth just has this uncanny ability. Or there's a walrus, for example, if you can see. So Ruth has this uncanny ability to do these amazing illustrations. So we were really blessed to be able to have her be the illustrator of this book.
Do you have any favorite animals after reading the book?
I like the parrotfish. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I liked the otters. They were so cute.
Yeah.
How did you find Ruth and begin your collaboration?
Well, I went to the bookstore and looked at 50 or 60 different books, and I also went online and looked at different illustrators, and I came up with a few that I thought were great, and Ruth was, top of the list there. And the publisher, Charles Bridge, reached out to Ruth, and we were just lucky that she was available to do it. So that's kind of how it happened. And another reason, by the way, another indication of interest in ocean creatures is I also do sculpture. And you can see here, this is a whale that I did, it's a humpback whale, which is also in the book. But so I do a lot of those just to show you how much we, like creatures, and especially ocean creatures.
Clifford, we read that you love your nieces and nephews, and that inspired you to write for children. What made you start to write with Stephen?
Yeah, and first of all, that's exactly right. And I think you read that in my dedication of the book, that my inspiration for writing this with my dad comes from my nieces and nephews. So I love them very much, and I know they've enjoyed the book so far, which has been great to see. And what made me want to start doing this with my father really is a few things. Growing up, I saw my dad author a number of different children's books, whether it was Alice and Greta, The Tale of Two Witches, like you said in the beginning, or whether it was Percy to the Rescue, for instance. So I was always inspired by that, by seeing my dad write these books, and inspire kids with them when I was growing up. So I've always loved it, and I've always been inspired by it. And so when my dad began writing this new series, starting with Where Do Creatures Sleep at Night, and he invited me to help collaborate with him on that, I was excited to do so right away. And then it wasn't long after that we decided that we wanted to create a sequel, and then of course another sequel, which is this book about ocean creatures. So that's how it came about. It was a pretty easy decision for me because again, I was always inspired by it, and I love working on projects with my dad.
Are you going to do any other books in the series?
That's a great question, Abigail. And we're still talking about it and we're thinking about it. And I guess I'll just say that's an announcement to come. We haven't made our final plans yet.
How old are your nieces and nephews?
Well, we have 6 of them, and one of them is just born, named Lucas, and he's my older brother's son. And Dad, do you want to keep me honest on all the ages here?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Our oldest is a 7-year-old. Then there's a 5-year-old. Then there's a 4-year-old. Then there's a 3-year-old. Then there's a 1-year-old, and then there's a 3-month-old. So that's kind of it's a good group.
That
My
all
my grandchildren and his nieces and nephews.
that almost goes in order.
Who do you speak to when gathering all of this information? What were some of the questions you asked, and who did you consult?
Cliff, you want to take that?
Yeah, well, the research process was a really important part of it. So by that I mean gathering information, for months about all the different animals that we considered putting in the book. And then from there, we narrowed down to make the decision about which ones would actually go in the book. So we gathered the information from a few different places, but using online resources from websites that are very credible and accurate, that had information that we could trust and was, scientifically accurate. That was a big resource for us to gather all the information we needed. And then we also used books as well, in order to make sure that we were gathering additional information about those animals. So it was a collaboration with my dad and I for many months to gather all the necessary information and to check all the facts and to make sure that everything was, not only interesting and would be great to be in the book, but also scientifically accurate, which is important. And once we gathered all of that, then it came time to narrow down to the final list of animals that we wanted to be in this book. So that's a little bit about how the process worked.
We have interviewed a number of authors who've had books banned in certain places.
That means in those places, kids don't have the same access to books that we have and may not be able to see themselves represented in books.
Can you give us your thoughts on this?
Sure. Well, in general, I think there should be freedom to explore any book. I mean, that doesn't mean there is not some material that shouldn't be in school libraries or exposed to kids, because there are, but by and large, I think the big takeaway here is that kids, teachers should be able to assign the books and use their background and judgment and the curriculum to let kids read what they suggest.
Can you
Thank
tell
you.
us,
Yep. Yeah, go ahead.
can you tell us your thoughts and if you are at all concerned about artificial intelligence and its future impact on publishing?
I could take that one, and Cliff, you can add whatever you think. Yeah, I'm quite concerned about artificial intelligence, and it has very, very positive things that can happen. It can increase productivity, which means it can help people do all sorts of things, from making their jobs easier to helping with research to, helping find new cures to things. But there is also a dark side of this that could happen, and you can have people with artificial intelligence, mimicking authors and trying to create books that are not done by humans but are done by machines, computers, essentially. And that's concerning. So I don't know, Cliff, if you have any further thoughts, but
I would echo everything that you mentioned. That's a great question, by the way, and something that we've talked about a lot. And I think the most relevant application that you're getting at when it comes to books and publishing is the ability for tools like ChatGPT, for instance, to very quickly, create content based on a prompt. So, not just in the world of authorship and publishing is this having an impact, but lots of industries and lots of ways it's having an impact, these new tools. So it's something we've thought about a lot. We certainly didn't use any and don't plan to for the creation of our books. But what I will say is that I hope that these tools moving forward can be a constructive addition to the way that authors already create ideas and the way that they write books, instead of being a replacement for human authors. So I hope that authors, if they do use these tools in the future, they'll use them in the right way, but still maintain an authentic approach and really continue to write the books themselves.
What author has had the most influence on you?
For me, I'll say J.K. Rowling. How about you, Dad?
um, in terms of this field, what we're children's picture books, I like Dr. Seuss. I think he's, the work ethic he put in to get his books to rhyme and the creativity he exhibited, I think had a big impact on me.
What advice do you have for young writers?
Well, I kind of liken it to when I talk about this, I'll talk about this in a classroom. I'll put up a light bulb on the chalkboard, and that's kind of stands for an idea. So I think the first thing I'd advise young writers is you've got to come up with an idea. That can be something that happened on the playground. It can be visiting an aquarium. It can be a trip with your parents. It can be something you did with your friends. Come up with an idea for a story and then write it down. Or if you can't write, then at this point, tell your siblings, your brother or sister to write it down, or tell your parents, and they can write it down for you. And just kind of develop that story and keep at it, The other thing I'll say is that for writing a book, like Where Do Ocean Creatures Sleep at Night, we had to do 20 drafts of that. I mean, it's not just one, write it down and you're done. To have a really good story, you need to write it, then read it, then edit it and change. You're going to make things that you look at again and don't make sense. And you have others look at it too and give you comments. And I also advise to read it out loud, because when you read it out loud, you really get to hear it and you can make changes. So for young writers, those are some of the thoughts I have.
What do you use when writing? A computer or a pen? Do you have a favorite place to write? For example, a library or at the beach?
Cliff, you want to answer that?
For me, I use a computer every time. For my dad, he mixes it up. He'll use a pen and paper a lot more often than I will. But when it comes time to finishing the final draft, we always use a computer and make sure to have our draft finished and shared with each other on our computers. My favorite place to write uh, is in my apartment. I sort of have a special chair that I love reading books in, and it's cozy and is a great place to think and focus. That's my favorite place to write. What about Dad? What about you?
I like to write initially, you're right, with paper and pen. But I quickly go to the computer and proceed from there. And I can write anywhere, but usually I like to write on a desk uh, where I can sit properly and write, and also use my computer.
Finally, it's time for a Turbo 10.
10 rapid fire questions are
Go at it.
Can't wait.
Number one, what's your favorite phrase to use?
Favorite fast food?
Your favorite
Phrase.
phrase.
Favorite
Oh,
phrase.
favorite phrase. For me, I would say it's "let's do it."
Mine is time to rock and roll.
number two. What is one subject you'd love to learn more about?
For me, I'd say astronomy.
Number
Physics
three.
for me.
Number three, what's your go-to snack food?
Bananas.
What'd you say, Cliff? Bananas?
Bananas.
Okay. For me, it's potato chips.
Number four. What was your favorite book growing up?
For me, it was Babar, King of the Jungle.
Goodnight Moon or Alice and Greta, which my dad read to me.
Number five, if you could teleport somewhere right now, where would you go?
Another galaxy.
For me, the Great Barrier Reef in Australia.
Number six. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
To fly.
For me, it would be able to see through walls like Superman.
Number seven, what was your favorite cartoon as a kid?
For me, it was really a TV show. When I was growing up, there was a TV show called Howdy Doody, and that was my favorite one.
For me, Winnie the Pooh.
Number eight. What is your favorite rainy day activity?
I would say reading a good thriller novel.
For me, curling up and reading a good book.
Number nine, if you could have any three dinner guests, who would they be?
For me, I would say it would be an interesting combination. I'd say J.K. Rowling, George Washington, and Taylor Swift.
For me, I'm going to say Albert Einstein, Matthew McConaughey, and then I'm going to say my grandmothers, Lynn and Louise. If they were still alive, I would love to have dinner with them.
That's four.
That's true. I combined the last two.
Number 10. What was the best piece of advice you were ever given?
For me, it was work hard and you will accomplish things.
I'll say this. In my dad's book, Alice and Greta, the first one that he ever wrote, there's advice in that book that says, whatever you chant, whatever you brew, sooner or later will come back to you. And it's a key message from that book that my dad would always read to me when I grew up. So I think I'll say that's the best advice I ever got.
And I would just say before we part ways here, again, you can see the books on the website, stevesimmonsbooks.com or simmonsbooks.com, and also go to our Instagram account, Simmons Stories. And I want to thank you, Abigail and James, for taking the time to speak with us.
Thank you too.